When I experience an obstacle or challenge, I'm going to move past it. I'm going to shatter that glass ceiling and I'm going to keep going.
It hurts to smash a glass ceiling.
Wow, we literally have to be superheroes to walk through this life.
While I might have been the first, I pray that I'm not the last.
Hey!
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, Janine, and good morning, everyone watching. I just want to note that in this world, there's no such thing as a tech issue. Everything is perfect, as it always
Yes.
is.
No one's frazzled.
No one's frazzled at all. You know, when you schedule something that's global and people are waiting for it, and then it takes, half an hour to get it all cranked up.
Yep.
So thank you, everyone, for being so patient. And if you're now on here, I'd love it if you could repost the link to the broadcast, because some people who are waiting perhaps thought, oh, maybe it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But here it is happening. So
and comment in the comment section. Let us know that you're here. So good morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
And we have an exciting day today. But before we get started, I just wanted to mention to our viewers that Debbie Hazel is dropped her episode on the podcast at takingherlead.blueberry.net. And she has an exciting journey. She's a financial executive who shared her story with Joshua, and I had the pleasure of listening, and it was so fabulous. And next week we have Donna Romanek, right?
Yep. On Monday for our live stream.
Yep. So I'm excited about that too. She's going to be fabulous. So tell us a little bit about Donna, because I know you've been talking to her.
You know, I lived in Seattle for a while, worked downtown for a while, and very familiar with the ACT Theater, as are many Seattleites. It's a beloved place. And Donna, she will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think she has now been there a couple of years, and she is the institutional giving manager. And so a lot of development efforts on her part. She's just an amazing person. She's going to talk about her transition from being a professional to being stay-at-home mom. For many years, and then transitioning back into the world of work outside the home. So it's a very interesting journey she's had, and some triumphs that I think are really valuable to hear.
And then we also have Dr. Lakshmi Prada dropping on the podcast. So she is quite the dynamo, isn't she? She's kind of got that. She's an IT specialist who's got this artistic flair and energy. And she's, you interviewed her from India, right?
Yeah, she's from Chennai.
Yeah.
And she was a dentist. She is a tech support representative in the medical world. She is a classically trained singer, and she is an author.
Yes.
And a blog. I mean, it just goes on.
Multi-talented. So, and talk about tech issues. We had tech issues from India when we recorded her a couple times. So, it all happens, but we finally got the goods, and she's fabulous.
Yeah, she's
fabulous. So we have a lot of exciting things going on, Joshua. I'm really excited that we have so many great guests, and we have the lineup for the summer done already, so we know who's coming until September pretty much. So good things are happening. So thank you everyone for joining us and for supporting us. We are in 65 countries. It's hard to believe. Yay! And we just have had so many great text messages, support. So we really thank everybody for getting behind our mission to create this kind of a platform for women to share their stories. It's been really powerful and impactful for us as well.
Yeah, love it. And we should note that I posted this on LinkedIn, but if you hadn't seen it, then we are now rolling up and down right within the top 50 management podcasts in America on iTunes and Google Podcasts. So that's pretty incredible when you consider there's 150 million podcast listeners in America. And same thing in India, as mentioned, and we're trending pretty high in the UK. So right up there.
Well, we need to give Nick, our producer, a little shout out because he's really helped us come together and really change our dynamic and how we're showing up in the world. So we really appreciate him a lot, Nick Silva.
Yeah, he's fabulous. So would you like to talk about our guest today and how you know her?
Well, Lisa, I have friends who have been going to Lisa's salon down here in Belltown. And I have been traveling around. I lived in Oregon. I moved to Arizona. I work in Seattle and Tacoma. And so I was just like, you know what? The most constant place for me right now is the city that I work in. So I was like, okay, I have to just bite the bullet and go to Vann Studios in Belltown because my colleagues are all saying that this is the place to go. Well, I had no idea when I walked in. I was walking into an experience. This woman is incredible. I mean, it's not just a hair salon. It's more than that. It's really an experience. And I got to hear what she's been able to do to sustain her business and keep her employees employed through the pandemic and what she's been able to do for the community. And I thought, oh, she has to be a guest on the show. She's had quite the career journey. So I'm excited to have her.
A genius in the studio. And has worked with Aveda to develop products.
And she's now with Euphora. So she's, she's a Euphora educator. Yep. So she's done some really great things with her business too. She's got a business mind. And I think that that's incredible to have that customer service and the business mind together.
And a real generosity of heart toward the Seattleites and people disenfranchised. And she's an advocate. Well, we're going to hear all about it here in just a minute. So let's see. Anything else that we're missing?
No, I think that's all the good stuff. The most important things, taking her lead.
Yeah. Here we go. We're going to let her take the lead. So without further ado, let us welcome Lisa Vann to Taking Her Lead. See how fast Nick can bring her on. Lisa.
Hey, Lisa. How are you?
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're excited to have you. We are excited to have you. So I have to say I spilled the beans before you got on about how incredible you are and how great it's been having my hair done in that salon and meeting you and sharing all that creativity and fun. So how is it in Seattle today? How is it in Gray Seattle?
I mean, it's been a great morning. It's been good. The sun was out this morning when I drove in. So that was nice. We've had just bits of sun, which has been wonderful. So I love it. I think downtown is quiet this morning. That's surprising.
Well, I'm kind of interested in letting you describe what your current position is. How do you define yourself and your work when someone asks you, so Lisa, what do you do?
Well, I do own a salon. That is one big part of what I do. But I guess right now it's really about taking care of people. And there's so many different ways that I do that. I think one is definitely touch. Everybody I get to touch and work with behind the chair, which I enjoy. I'm in here 6 days a week working with my guests, but also inspiring and working with that next generation hairdresser. I work at the school that's right in the same area as ours, inspiring hairdressers to kind of really understand what it's about, not just the creative aspect, but really what we do to people's lives. And nothing really stand true until we got into this pandemic. I think that's when all of it came real to me of what we do as connectors and as people that really get to touch people every single day, especially when we're in a pandemic where we can't even touch people, let alone be within 6 feet of each other. So I think it's really reigned true to what my purpose is and what I do. I've also been able to travel globally with my career, where I've been all over Europe, Australia, South America, North America. So one of the things that I've found is kind of true in all aspects. I mean, people need connection and people need to be touched. And I think that's something that I've really prided myself on and been able to take my lead on that by really inspiring others to know how important that is, especially during these times.
Well, I think that a lot of people don't really think about how regular, I mean, I'm a regular now. My colleagues have been a regular there for a long time, and what the impact of going to a place and having somebody know you and see you and want you to look your best. And I think that there's something really golden in that over time, right?
Yeah,
Being
I think
seen.
it's so funny. Yeah, I think because it comes so much more than that. I mean, I just saw somebody off to school that I've been doing his hair since he was 3 months old, every 4 weeks since he was 3 months for 18 years. And, you don't even think about, okay, he's a young boy starting his life. And I just remember that day where he's ready to head off to college. And, even though we're not supposed to hug, normally I give him a hug goodbye. He actually looked at me and said, "Can I give you a hug goodbye?" And I'm like, sure. He's 18-year-old, 6 foot tall kid that was like really wanting to just continue that connection. And I noticed even this week he's coming back from school and he's trying to get in immediately. A lot of these people that have been in my life for, couple decades now, I'm their first stop when they get back into town, which,
Yeah.
really tells you how important touch is and how important connection is. And we do have to be a little bit more to people than just the hairdresser or the mailman or the, the service provider in any aspects. When you touch people's lives in a way that you're their thought and, they want to continue that connection. And I've been so lucky to have, over 3 decades of that with people. Even when I think of my guests that were in Saturday, a lot of them have been coming to me for over 30 years. So I feel like I'm doing something right if that's happening.
Well, and the other thing that's really fascinating about that is people at different times in your life and you're growing together. Your business has grown in 30 years too. You've changed in 30 years. They have. What a powerful connection to have over time.
Yeah. And I think,
Well, I
Lisa,
think that is the key.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah. I was going to say that
I think that's
in your
been
We've got a little bit of a delay
little bit
going
of a
on.
Go
delay.
ahead.
I was going to say that in your work, you're affirming people, and people desperately need affirmation, and you're giving them your time, which people desperately, in a safe space. And the touch, is incredible. Safe touch that's affirming and healing. So there's so many things going on there, so many connection points to people's lives that you're just doing so much good with. So my hat's off to you. If I had a hat.
Thank you. I mean, I think the biggest thing has been changing and kind of keeping up with the times. I mean, we think of change meaning people's hair. If I kept everybody the same from when I started in the early 80s, I don't think I'd be in business. And so my business model also has changed over the last 3 decades. I've had, different partners at different times in my career. I've had different staff, different team members, I've been part of different creative teams. And certainly I've had name changes. I think when I started here, we were Marketplace Salon just because the only big thing down here in Belltown was the Pike Place Market. And as everything was growing around us, I kind of had to start looking at, okay, we're not really just about the market. And there's many other things happening. I mean, I look at the city within my 4 radius blocks and how much has happened in such a short time, meaning the last 20 years of just growth. And so I think that that's where I started thinking about change and changing what my vision is for the company, what my role is for my community, and how I need to connect differently with the guests that are coming in, let alone the team and the people that I'm hiring and what I want them to bring to not just our salon, but our community and our city.
Yeah. So I'm curious because I always ask this question, what childhood experiences really formed who you are today and how you've approached business and your employees and your customers? What did you learn as a child that kind of made some helped you make your career choices?
I think it was really my first defining moment was in high school when a lot of the elective courses that we could take to actually like guide us in our career was for girls, it was home ec and it was sewing and it was cooking. And those were the only choices that I had. None of those really appealed to me whatsoever. I really was more creative. I love fashion. I love change. I had more energy than what that would offer. Being from Eastern Washington, Walla Walla area, there was a lot of farming in our community where we definitely had future farmers and Walla Walla sweet onions, apple farming, orchards. I mean, that was a big staple of the community that I grew up in. And one of the things that really was kind of offered to a lot of the farmers and their families was electives that boys could go in and they could work on their family farm and get credit in high school. And I didn't really think that was fair because I had to stay at school and I really wanted the opportunity to do more. And so I did have to go up against the school board, fight for what I wanted to do, and that was hair. I really felt in that time in my life, the only creative outlet in my community was hairstyling. That was a career that was very creative. It had created a lot of opportunities for the women that I had went to that did my hair. There was some travel. There was a lot of continued education. It was artistic. There were shows. There was competition. And I ended up going against the school board, getting the opportunity now to work outside of the school in a salon and get creative classes that would then become a credit in my high school that I could get hours to actually become a hairstylist, but also get a credit in high school for an elective. And so that was kind of that changing moment that was a little for my parents thinking, what are you doing? And there was a lot of the hairdressing where if you did that, you were either going to be a dropout or, you know, like that's where you went. I mean, I hate to even say it, but it was the stigma in the early 80s was either you were a dropout or a stripper that went into hair. And that was really what it was. And when I went into this career, I started getting introduced to people that were doing more with it. And I think Aveda at the very beginning, Horst Reckelbacher, he was someone that really looked at it as environmental awareness, sustainability, also creative, but also doing more with it. And that really intrigued me at really early on. And so that was kind of where I started.
Well, you know,
That
I
was
wanted to
like
mention, you know, what I hear in that story is, you know, what we all struggle with is that when we see something that makes us angry or frustrates us or seems unfair, the best way to use that energy is to create change, right? I mean, we have a choice to just zip it and resent it or to use our voices to create change. And it sounds like that's what you did at a very early age. You know, you were able to harness that feeling and use it to your advantage. Good for you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that kind of was the leading. At least I didn't get shut down too much because I think it could have gone any different direction, but it went in such a positive direction that was able to get my license when I graduated from high school. I ended up moving over to the East Coast, which was another big change in my life. And I think that without that opportunity, it would have been a whole different path for me. But because that worked out well for me, I kept taking more risks and doing more. And pretty much every risk I've taken has been positive in a way that I found a solution for it, that nothing has set me back. Doesn't mean everything has worked out, but it means I've been able to take those risks and knowing that no matter what the outcome is, I'll be able to meet those challenges and continue on my path.
Wow.
Triumphant. I love it. Yeah. What were some real pivotal moments? Yeah, I mean, you touched on this a little bit, but you know, where let's just take your profession. Once you enter the profession, moments where you thought, this, all that I've done so far has set me up to go in this direction, or this event has changed my perception, and so I want to go in this way. Are there, does that speak to you at all? Are there instances like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest ones that has kind of really fed into my career and my ability to want to be better was when I got married at like 18. My husband got stationed in Norfolk, Virginia in the Coast Guard. And my husband and I grew up together. We got married early, but we dated all through high school. And, we're married still. He's amazing. And we have 3 great daughters, and that he's just the best support ever. But he got stationed in Virginia, and I had moved out there and started in a salon called Elsie's Great Looks for Guys and Dolls, which primarily did African American hair. And I had not worked very much at all in Washington when I got my license, just right out of school. And so when I relocated and started working with all types of hair, it really woke me up to what my profession really means. How do we create the diversity and the change? And how do we actually, as someone that is coming from a rural area in Eastern Washington, now pushed into an area that is so diverse? And it was, instead of shying away and instead of like not wanting to meet the challenges, I jumped right in, and I was really taken care of by the community I was in Norfolk, and was really had the opportunities to really take my craft to a level that I never knew I could achieve. Because when I moved back, I mean, after he had finished his 4 years in the Coast Guard, we had moved back to Washington. He just wanted to get back to school and went in for his GI Bill. I started the salon that I now own as an assistant, and really pushed my way into diversifying not only our clientele, but our staff, and really wanting every hairdresser to learn how to do all types of hair and not be afraid of it. And now I look at our clientele today and our team today, and really look at how diverse we are. Not to mention, I've been able in the last 30 years be able to be the girl that does textured hair, that has a huge point of difference, that's been able to develop products for all types of hair, to do collections with all types of women, and to really lead the way of being recognized as one of the leading top hairdressers in the world that works with all types of women and all types of hair, which I think is huge.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's like not being pigeonholed into one capability, right? And it's also meeting people where they are. Everybody's a potential customer who you can find beauty in. I think that's great. So,
yeah, and I think it reads more.
Can you repeat that? I didn't hear that. It reads.
I just think it's really more telling today than ever that we all need to be so accepting of each other and not exclusive to one type of even if it's one type of thing to do within our careers or profession.
So if you had to think about somebody that's influenced you in your career, who's brought something to you or shaped who you are today, who would that be?
I think because I was so early on with Horst, the founder of Aveda, and at that very beginning of Aveda, there was like 5 shampoos and 4 style products. It was very small. And what that did was really help me understand the meaning of touch and the meaning of taking care of guests. And it was so much more than just hair. It came right down to what was in that bottle of shampoo. What aroma is your guest smelling when they come into the salon? How are you starting that experience with the guest? One of our mantras is a face-to-face consultation, where no matter how much time is needed, we sit down and turn our guests away from the mirror. We sit down and have a conversation with them and talk about their lives and them and our lives, and how we can connect and And during that time, you really do become understanding of the person in front of you and really been able to lead them in an experience that gives them the best them. And I think he was someone who really taught me that. It's not just, getting the job done. It's really about making that connection. And I spent almost, over 30 years with Aveda. And that was something that I've taken with me moving on with Ephora, which they're pretty much essentially companies that are very similar. I wouldn't have moved on to another company if it wasn't similar. Horse has passed on it now, and I still have all the connections with the people that I was part of a team with. I was on their global team as well, and so to me, it was just time to have a new journey. And I love the idea of women supporting women. And Aveda was, when Horse passed, Aveda had taken on ownership with Estee Lauder. And Estee Lauder is quite big and owns a lot of companies. And, this last couple of years in my career has really been based on supporting women, working with sustainable products, natural derived products, people that care about our environment. And Euphoria is a company owned by a woman. It's on the West Coast. It just read better to my story and my mission. And so I think that was what made me change. And so this was another defining moment in my life. And I have to say, Beth Lee, the owner of Euphoria, has been someone that's been very impactful as well on how she's running her company.
To me, it sounds that what I'm hearing from you is that you have a very specific purpose and passion, and that what you're doing aligns with that purpose and passion. And so you're doing a lot of different things, but all of them, file right in with who you are. Would you say that's true?
It is, because, I was told early on, if I'm going to get out there on stage, and I've been on stage in front of thousands of people in my career, one of the things I do is a lot of trade shows. So I go out and I speak to the industry and I show creative techniques. And, we have several over a certain period of time in our industry all over the world that we host these shows where we all go and gather and we impact each other. And I've had that opportunity. And when you're speaking to other hairdressers and you're speaking to other professionals, it's really important to be true to who you are. And I've always followed missions in my life, and I've always cared about the world we live in and the environment and my guests and the people that I take care of. And I think the one thing that really remained true was, am I doing what I'm saying I'm doing? Am I following my mission? Am I bettering what I'm doing? And I always have believed, for me, being a woman who owns her business, and not that I haven't had partners in my career that were men, and those just took a different path than what I was wanting for my next 15, 20 years in it. And I felt like if I was making these changes for me externally, internally, who am I working with? Who am I partnered with? And that was really important when it came to the product and the makeup and some professional things that we use here. Because if there was other women that were privately owning companies, I wanted to support them. And that was just important to me. Doesn't mean there's not great companies out there owned by men, but right now in my forward, I just really felt it was important to have like-minded people in my life. And we were doing a lot of the same types of things to move our world forward.
Wow. So I have another question for you, because I know that being a business owner, you have to encounter conflict. How has the approach to conflict changed for you over time?
I think it just happens quicker now that I'm older. I think when I was younger and being a professional and owning a business and working with a company, when things weren't working out as I wanted them to for me, I tend to kind of just go with the flow. and just kind of make it work. Now I feel like I have more of a voice. And the more women that I talk to, Janine, you're one of them as well, that I really feel like, we can have a voice and make a difference quicker. And, I have the reputation now of, being very on.
Oh,
Well, we lost her. I think we got muted. Hang on a sec.
yep.
We will fix this. Thanks for your patience, everybody. This is a little bit of what we were experiencing earlier. We'll figure this out. And I think it's your headset. Can you hear us now, Lisa? Lisa, can you hear us now?
Can you hear us?
I can.
Yay!
Oh, yay!
She's back.
Those
Yes.
earbuds.
Yes.
I just feel like things are happening faster now. Like I'm making the change for myself to better the people around me and making those decisions quicker than going with the flow. I'm less going with the flow now.
Finding your voice. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious, when you huddle with your team, what are some of the leadership things that you talk about in terms of your business and what you're trying to create and the experience you're trying to create? Like, what's your leadership training for them,
So we do a few things. So we do one-on-ones every quarter where I feel it's important for me to sit down with them for an hour at a time and really talk to them about where they're at and what they want. And, it's a little bit harder, I have to say, during the pandemic than it was. I was very consistent with it before. But because we're limited on the amount of people that we can have in the salon at a time, when they're here, they really do want to work and get their guests in, and everybody's extremely busy. But we've been managing to get those in. And I think it's really important, and it was for me, to give them always an opportunity to do more, to make more, to get more education, to follow their dreams of whatever they want to do. If they don't want to be here, let's say forever, which I would love to keep the team that I have forever, then how do I help them reach their goals? And I've seen that with a lot of my one-on-ones. I have a gentleman that works for me now who's been with me for, I think, going on 8 or 9 years. He really wanted to get into project management and do more work in the corporate world. He just felt like the behind the chair grind was just a lot for him. He ended up going to school. He ended up getting his degree in marketing. And, there wasn't a lot of opportunities for him out there after 13 years of doing hair. And so I said, well, let's create those opportunities by giving you a role at my salon, doing project management and marketing, build up your resume, because I have a lot of things in the works, not only from our art shows, but to our Northwest Hairstyling Awards, to the U.S. Styling Awards, to our web design, to our marketing with our guests. So there was lots of roles that he could take, make the salary he needs to make within that, do clients a few days a week, and make his future what he wants it to be. And I said, in 3 or 4 years' time, if it's something you want to still pursue 100%, then you would have those credentials on your resume. Let's make your resume work for where you want to go. And I think that's just an example of a one-on-one of how that would work, because I think it's important to really make sure people know how they can make more money, how they can, I'm going to adjust my camera here. I don't know why how they can make more money and how they can work towards their goals as well. So one-on-ones are really important to me. Second is team meetings monthly. We would connect as a team for 3 hours. Most of them have a theme. A lot of times it's going to be how we're going to take care of our guests better. We do little exercises, and we also do appreciation. in those meetings. We spend the month where people, when somebody does something really nice for each other, we put it in a bucket. So we start off with reading appreciations to each other right at the beginning. We write things down within that month because we want to make sure we don't forget when it comes to the meeting. And so that's important, that the team knows how appreciated they are from each other. And then we generally have a theme, whether the last one we did was really where the money's going. You know, I break down the pie, the dreaded pie, and, you know, talk about, you know, where we're at and what's important to each of them as working in here. And if we have this much money, where do we want it to go? And what are things that we don't really need? And how can we be better? And so those are things that we tend to do. We also talk about, we do one philanthropist kind of like charity drive every month. And so we tend to really touch base on who's supporting and why. And they come in and do a talk to the team about why it's important. Right now we're doing the bridge, and we're actually doing a panty drive, and we're getting clean underwear for the unhoused and making sure that, you know, we're being able to take care of people that maybe are less fortunate. And we have socks that we all give out to people that are fortunate. And, you know, those are just things that we tend to regroup on and we talk about, and we always ask ourselves why, and we always have the answer why we're doing it. We also house artists, and we do Belltown Art Walk. And so right now we're not able to do our art walks, so we do virtual art shows. And so we want to be able to address the artists that we have up and make sure that our guests know that they can meet the artist in a virtual show that we host on our YouTube channel. And so it's little things like that that I think is important to connect with my team, and they know what they're part of. We're a green circle salon, so we recycle everything. So we have, I think, 15 bins up. Everything has to be separated out, and, you know, nothing goes to waste. Right now they're using our guests' hair to make a sustainable plastic, and they're using the wasted chemicals to create a negative positive charge to electricity. And, you know, we don't take anything up to the garbage. We recycle everything in here. And I think that's really important for our team to really know what, all the things they're part of that we put in place. We're committed, if not, and consistency. I mean, I'm so proud of this team during the pandemic. We have not dropped the ball once. We take the temperatures, we do the tracking forms, we change the bends out, we wipe everything down, we stay distance, we wear masks. You know, I think that's important too, to really reward them of all the things they're doing to keep not only each other safe, but the people that come in the door safe. And so that's a big important thing. And in exchange, I will write the grants, and I'll look for the money, and I'll keep the doors open, and I will keep them insured, and I will keep them employed. And, you know, if they're sick, they can have the day off. If they're tired, they can have a personal day. I will do everything I can to make sure that they're taken care of. And it's important for them to hear that as well.
Janine, I'm sorry.
So
I can't do this anymore. I need to go work with Lisa. Lisa, I'm going to come work with you.
I know. I feel that way when I go in her shop. I have to tell you. I feel that way. It's like I'm energized, and I get to be the recipient. One of the things that I love that you told me, these are the little things, is that you, during the pandemic, when the shop was closed, you still answered the phone because you knew that people were worried about their hair appointment. It was their connection time. I feel like even that is just a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
Is not getting the recording that says we're closed.
Yeah, it was an eye-opener. I came downtown day one. I don't think I missed a day. I came downtown 10 to 7 every day. You know, and the first thing I noticed is how destitute and how quiet our city was. But there was still really the unhoused. And sometimes it wasn't even just people that were regular homeless people. Sometimes it was people that were just maybe got caught up in Seattle, didn't plan to stay in Seattle, but were just downtown. And, young 20 to 30 something men. And so the first thing I started doing was picking up a case of water every morning and hand sanitizer and putting it out in front of the salon. And I was thinking, well, nobody will probably want to touch things that are sitting out on the street. But the first day, all 25 water bottles were gone, by noon. And so I started picking up like cases at a time, like 4 or 5 cases at a time. And I was going through 50 to 100 water bottles a day. And it got me really thinking about people that were homeless, that maybe they didn't really understand what was going on as far as the pandemic goes, and there was no one to give change. Like the simplest things like water, there was nowhere to get water, and so let alone masks and hand sanitizers and really being connected to what was going on in our city. And so that was really one big thing that I found happened when we were shut down. The other that I thought was really important was my project manager, Christopher, who I was talking about. He put a sign up that kind of did a step-by-step of what we were doing and put my picture, which I thought this was so interesting, a picture of me smiling at the end of this kind of public safety announcement. And a lot of people that were taking the water would just thank the picture. They would, more than not, would thank the picture. They would smile at the picture. They would talk to the picture. Our windows are tinted, so they couldn't even see me in here. So you have to really look through the glass to see if somebody's in here. But I could see the look on their faces just by getting the water. Every single person was so respectful of that table of water and hand sanitizer that I would go out and every now and again and kind of spray it with alcohol and wipe it down. But there wasn't touching everything. They would take 1 or 2. One little guy, bless him, he had his backpack and he just filled it up with like 9 bottles. But he must have needed them. I was like, look at him.
Yeah.
He's just going to take everything I got, which is great. I had no problem. I just filled it back up. So that was one thing that I felt like connecting to our community, which was important. The other was the phones. And like Jean said, the phones were ringing. People just wanted to know we were okay. And a lot of our guests who had appointments on the books, at this time we thought we were coming back in May, but a lot of people that had appointments on the books were just calling to pay for their appointment, even though they couldn't make it in. They're like, I'm going to just pay for my haircut.
Awesome.
I budget for it. I'm going to pay for it. And we just want to make sure you're okay. And I'm like, we're definitely okay. And it just got to be really fun to be on the phones. I had somebody call that was coming in every 2 weeks for his cleanup. He was a musician. He had lost his job. He was suicidal at certain times in his life. He was a drug addict. His gym was closed. His salon was closed. He was out of work. His counseling was closed. And, I said, you can just call me every day. I'm here. If I didn't wake up for this, for the clients, I woke up for him. Every day I knew I had to be here just because he needed to give me that call. After a while, I'm on the phone. I might have missed 15 calls because I'm on the phone for like an hour or 2, and I had to limit my calls to 30 minutes. I would tell people, 30 minutes is up. I posted on Facebook that I was going to be on the phones if you wanted to call me. I had people calling me that were guests of mine that had moved to New Zealand that saw the post. I had people that were calling me that were in Toronto, that were all over the world checking in. And so it really did help me stay connected and really have an understanding of how needed people are to be in touch with other people. And when we opened up, we started getting guests come in just for a shampoo blow dry because we were still the only ones that could touch. Nowhere else could you go and really have somebody give you a complimentary scalp massage and then a shampoo and a condition and a blowout and have that full 45 minutes. And you think of people that live alone. and that are just working on a Zoom call or just working on their computer for the last year, we found we're doing more and more people that just want to come in just to be in the energy of the salon.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
so that was something that was really really empowering to me to get to do. And I'm really proud that I did that. I stayed with it and I didn't miss a day. Jeff, the mailman, and I were the only two down here. And even if I got into work an hour late because I was running errands, he'd call me out. He goes, "Oh, you were late today." And I'm like, I'm sorry. I'll be on time tomorrow. So we formed it. Me, the UPS guy, FedEx, and the mailman, we formed a real relationship. So, that was really a special time to be able to be here for people. Yeah.
Lisa, are there challenges that you have faced in your career because you're a woman?
I mean, I think that, how I got into the salon was I actually came in to work for two great men. They own the salon. They opened it in the late 70s. And one of the things, because I did textured hair, I was so sought after by Aveda. They loved that I did textured hair. I was traveling a lot. Aveda was a global company, so we were doing things overseas. We were doing constant product development. I was going to Minneapolis every other weekend. I was working really hard, kind of doing two things: working behind the chair, being part of a creative team in Seattle, but also being part of a global creative team that came out of Minneapolis. And one of the things that happened was I'd have to leave town. And a lot of times you would leave on a Friday or Saturday and come back on a Monday night or Tuesday, which was really hard for the small business because they definitely had me working, and busiest in a hair salon is on the weekends. So when I would leave, they were not getting any revenue happening behind the chair. So instead of sharing what I was doing outside with the business, I think that's a very common thing. If you have a chair and you're a commissioned stylist and you're taking jobs outside of the business, you sometimes would have to give a percentage of the money you're making doing your education or your freelance or whatever, which is not unheard of. I wasn't mad that they were asking, but there had to be more. So I had talked to them about buying in and having shares in the company, because if I owned a portion, it had more job security. And if anything I learned is freelance, but you do need to have some job security, which was my bread and butter of my revenue, was my clients working behind the chair. So having different partners in my career and me kind of not always connecting to the plan of, okay, this is how the business needs to be ran. This is what we need to do. Sometimes I was way faster and had more ideas and wanted to make changes quicker than the person that I was partnered with. And sometimes just because I was a woman, I felt like the men that I partnered with didn't really take my views seriously. I often was called emotional, or, I'm not going to talk to you right now. You're too emotional. And I really took that in offense, because I am not emotional at all. I'm not an emotional woman. And so that always set me back. And I think over the time, everybody that I partnered with, we've done great things together, but we also outgrew each other. And I think it was okay to move on, to just say, this isn't working. I have bigger and better ideas where I want to take my career. Doesn't mean where you want to go is bad. It's just different. And I think I kind of sat into those things a little bit longer than I should have, because of, I think it was more emotion sometimes, in a sense, on their end than it was business. And I think I've always ran everything as a business. and do really amazing things because of it and not emotion. And I think that it's really important to establish that before you partner with someone, to really establish boundaries and really establish, you know, goals and views. And when it doesn't go the direction that one might want, there's an exit strategy as well.
You know, it's funny
So
that you bring up
partnering has always struggled. Not that I have a good thing.
you know, you bring up the emotion piece, and I'm going to challenge a little bit, because I think the best, you know, we use the word emotional like it is a criticism of women, right? And I really just think everybody has emotions, and it's really how well you regulate them, use them as data, get the gifts from them, and make better decisions. And so when people say you're just being emotional, they kind of associate that with being female. And I think emotionally regulated and understanding emotions, you make better decisions. And it's not, quote, making emotional decisions. It's making well thought out decisions that are actionable, logical, and still consider how people are going to feel. You know, that's emotional intelligence in my mind. So it's not a bad thing. But you know, I think historically we like to equate being emotional with hysteria.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that men confuse the two sometimes when they're throwing that word around. Right. So yeah, it's fascinating. So I know that your creativity is kind of leaked into raising your children, because you did mention that one of your daughters is going to be on America's Got Talent at some point when this pandemic gets kind of sorted out. How has your creativity really inspired your parenting and your business owning and who you are as a business leader?
Well, I've always been the mom that made every Halloween costume, that had the big theme parties, that, and I think of all three of my daughters. I have three daughters. So I have two in their mid to late 20s and then one that is 19. All creative. I have a makeup artist daughter, I have an artist daughter, and I have a musician daughter, all pursuing their creative, I guess, their creative passion. So, I think that that's kind of where it is now. I kind of said early on when I was pregnant with my first daughter that I didn't really want to give up my career. I really wanted a partner at home that could help take care of the kids and really support what I would support Jeff and what he was doing. He would support me and what I was doing, and we would both take on these girls together. And that's kind of what we did. And I think that being able to be creative and do the shows and the shoots, and my daughters really being a part of it with me from the very beginning, but also doing the arts and the crafts and being a creative mom at home. I mean, wasn't just like home ec at school, there was no home ec mom. I was not cooking, cleaning, and doing all the chores. I was doing the crafts, and we were making the costumes, and we would do the art shows and the art fairs. And, they were really, really put into the creative mom.
Mm-hmm. That creative space early.
Yeah, so I think that was really who they've become. And I feel like that was the best of me that I could give, that really inspired them to be the best who they want to be. And so, it really did push them into doing their passion and their love. And they're all very talented and they're doing great. That's what makes me the proudest, I think.
Yeah. Lisa, what are some things you're reading or shows you're watching? How are you feeding your soul and feeding your perspectives on leadership right now?
Well, one of the books that just from talking with all these women in my life now that want me to write a book, one of my friends wrote a book called Daymaker. And one of the ideas that I really want to aspire to is to have a book that's really empowering and inspiring and really supporting people.
Mm-hmm.
And David Wagner wrote a book called Daymaker, and I read it quite a few years ago. And then we reread it again as a salon about 5 years ago. And so I picked it back up again, after I started thinking about what type of book I wanted to write. And I really am inspired by his book. And it's really little stories, and it's really about changing people's perspective, but also having awareness of other people in their position and really making a difference every single day in every single thing you do. And I love reading that because I'm kind of learning structure of how books are written and what keeps me wanting to turn the page and what keeps me wanting to move to the next chapter. And it's a little bit these stories, and it's a quick read, but it's impactful because it relates to me. And so that's something that I'm reading differently now. I'm reading it as someone who wants to pursue what he's done there by having a very successful book for people that are in my industry, and somebody I really look up to and someone I know really well. He's so wonderful. I mean, even when I said, we're doing a book club with your book, and, he actually personalized every copy for every member of my team. And that was something that we did at a monthly meeting. Give Daymaker books to everyone that were personalized and signed by David. So that was, that's something that I aim to pursue. The other is I've been listening to a lot of like Billie Holiday and kind of jazz, like women in jazz. I don't know why. I just have enjoyed that lately. So that's something that I'm doing. And that's about it. That's all I have time for. I'm here, 10 to 12-hour days. And I've been here every Sunday, Monday for the last month. And those are usually my days home. And so right now, those are the two things that I've been able to really be able to do for myself. That really puts me in a nice place. Jazz was on in here the first couple hours before I got on with you two. So that was nice.
Speaking my language.
So, Lisa, what advice would you have given your younger self if you had the opportunity to go back and talk to yourself as a young person at any age? What advice would you give?
I feel like I needed to bend a little, like because I set things in place. I'm learning now that, I have to say I came into being a salon owner with definite rules on how to be a salon owner. I've worked under great people that have had successful salons, and I have really attested the success of their salon by everybody wears black and everybody's 15 minutes before their appointment and everybody has professional tools and everybody does these steps to get to the end of their service appointment. And I've learned that maybe that's not quite right. I have to pick the battles of being a good leader. If I do it, I think the best advice I have is, there's always going to be that top tier of people in your life that really represent who you want to be and how you can achieve those goals. And then there's the 50% in the middle that they want to be the top tier, but if you're putting all your attention into the things that aren't working, then that's where we're going to fall in line with. And then there's the bottom 30. And, I've always spent my time focused on the top tier in life. And I kind of feel like I can bend a little and listen a little bit more and take some leadership from others and let them help steer the ship sometimes instead of trying to do it all myself. And I've been that person that, is just set to one set of rules. And I don't know if that's me anymore. I think this pandemic has changed that. And I would have told my younger self to, you don't have to be set to those standards, those high standards. It doesn't mean you need to leave all of them, but you can bring a little bit of change in that way in to kind of let loose a little bit and and not be so rigid on things, because it doesn't mean you're going to fail. It just means that you're changing those things that you always have held true to, and you're letting other people in. And I think that's been
Great.
Lisa, you are a pioneering woman of influence. And so I want to know, what are you most hopeful for among women moving into influence in the world? Women in leadership, women who want to be pioneers. What are you most hopeful for?
I hope that we can all start taking a look at each other and really finding each other, and just like what we're doing here. This is new to me with the podcast, but the amount of women that Janine and I are affiliated with and how we're connecting together, I don't know if this would have happened, 10 years ago. I don't know if we would have pushed and pursued and kept talking about creating opportunities for each other and one another. And I think that that's where it is now. I mean, I think it's about continuing the opportunities I have for myself, but actually opening the door for other women to have those same opportunities. Because I would never have known this. I wouldn't have, I wouldn't even have thought of a book. I wouldn't even have thought of a podcast. I wouldn't have thought of sharing my story. But I other than my own industry, but I think it's important to start putting your foot into, other things that, after this last month, I've really had good insight of where I want to go now the next 20 years. I know that I have set new goals, and I have new dreams, and I have new adventures, and I have new women in my life that I feel really connected to. And I think that none of that has to do with hair. And I think that's really interesting for me. I think that my advice would be to let other venues in, and let other women in, and let's share ideas, and let's support each other, and let's bring each other to the top, and really allow everybody to shine with that. And I think that's what's happening right now. And change your path. You can always have a different path.
Yeah. Wow.
Wow.
Well, this hour flew by,
Lou.
Yeah.
I have one final question. Lisa, do you do men's hair?
We do men's hair. I wouldn't say I'm the strongest barber, because I like long hair. I like long shags. I like texture. But look at you! I didn't see that back there. I'm great at that. But there's some great barbers in our salon that do a lot of fades, and I am mastering my barbering skills, but I'm a fan of hair. I'm a fan of texture. I'm a fan of shaping hair. I don't know why I'm not a big fan of just clipping it off. I mean, that ran a trend for a while. Every guy coming in was getting like the fade, and I'm just like, I don't know. I like to work with some hair. I don't just like to clipper it off. So I did invest in some new clippers. I do have the ability, and I've been practicing my fades. We brought some great educators in to work with us on our fades, and we have 3 really good barbers in here, and I watch them all the time. But I just really like to work with the texture of hair that people have, and create a great change for them without getting rid of it. I guess that's just me. So I just hire people to do a better job barbering.
I'm glad that you provide the services for men, but I was asking for me.
Okay, well, you would be perfect if you want to keep your hair and you don't want to shave it off. I'm a good one of creating great texture and shape with hair, and I'm not a master of I don't even know how many pairs of clippers I have, yet not master them. I keep buying a new pair thinking that's going to make it.
Thinking the tool will make it better. Yeah. The tool will make it better.
That's the tool that'll make me want to make me do it, but it's still not working. I don't still like to shave off hair. I don't know.
Well, it's been our pleasure. What a delight. I loved hearing your story and your journey. There's so much to you that, I just enjoy going. And, I had a wonderful person before I left Eugene, Oregon, Alicia Seacrest. Her salon, I loved it. And it was a loss for me to have to switch. I mean, you get attached to people. And so I know what that means for your customers too. And I've been able to reattach. So I really appreciate that so much. So
you're a treasure, Lisa. Thank you for taking the time.
It's been important.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This was so fun.
Thank you.
Yeah. And we'll be talking really soon.
Thanks.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
I'm serious. I want to go work for her.
I know. Isn't she fabulous?
Her perspective is incredible.
I think we lose sight of what business owners do in their communities and how powerful that is. I mean, she's not Amazon. She's not Google. Not that those businesses aren't important too in driving our economy, but the small business owner really contributes in a different way. And I just love it. I loved her story. Yep. And she's all energized for the next phase of her career. And I think that makes it wonderful too.
Yeah. She makes you feel comfortable. I can only imagine going and having my hair done by her. I would be her sole focus.
Yeah.
And yet she has worldwide influence. So
yeah. Well, it's funny because I grew up with straight hair, and I was about 42 when my hair became curly. And so she sees me as a curly head, and I'm just, my hair's always curly when I leave. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have curly hair. I just forget about that. So it's fascinating how she sees you versus how you see yourself. Right. So, well, it's been really fun. Thank you, Joshua. And, I will look forward to next week with Donna Romanek. Yeah. So I'll look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, let's see. Are we forgetting anything that we wanted to say? Look us up on LinkedIn, Facebook.
Connect with us. We love it.
Yeah. Follow our show. Follow the page on Facebook. Follow the page on LinkedIn. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
Yep. YouTube. When we post the event on LinkedIn, for instance, share it. Ask your connections to share it as well. We want to get the word out and continue our domination of the world. We're going to get to every single country.
Yes,
and
we are.
Having only had 3 countries, I think, a year ago, and now we're at 65.
I know, it's incredible.
Yeah, we're on our way.
There's fabulous women around the world.
Yeah.
Leading and making a difference. Yep. So thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.